Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Game Week 15 pod of the FPL Wire. Just 2 game weeks to go till the World Cup. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined as usual by my co-host, Late Riser. How's it going, buddy?
Going good. Not much you can do until wait for Saturday, because I'm guessing most of us that aren't on 3 City, our entire intent is going to be inclined towards getting 3 City. And we have to wait for that. So yeah, good FPL week. Otherwise, got 69 points, moved up from
Somebody has to get
4.
69 here. So good for you while the wife is away.
Yeah, and making up for the lack of Bucker on the pod as well. So yeah, doing my bit.
Yeah, Bakar was a last minute dropout. You're hopeful to have him. But yeah, I'm guessing the cricket fever is getting to Bakar now.
How about you? How was your week off?
Decent week, 61. I think it was very marginal. I had a small red arrow about 20k places. If Saka had just stayed on the pitch and maybe got 3-4 more points, it was a green. So that's how the margins are. It's interesting you mentioned the point on City. I don't think it's enough even if you have 3 City. The question now is which 3 City do you have? You take Cancelo sort of out of the equation. It becomes the next 2. Which 2 do you have?
Yeah, it's difficult and it's something we should dive into, look into.
Right. So let's just do a sponsor plug and that's what we'll open with. Let's go. All data you see on the FPL Wire is taken from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. The new improved members area is now up and running, and the new comparison tool lets you compare key stats for up to 3 players. Player projections are also live, and as always, you can access the custom stats table we create or make one for yourself. Sign up for membership today using our affiliate link in the description below. Right. Let's dive straight into it. First of all, the Man City discussion. What do we do with the Erling Haaland situation? Foden playing 90 minutes yesterday. There's so much to unpack and discuss regarding Man City. What are your thoughts, LR, initially?
Let's handle this one by one.
Yeah.
What do you think happened with Foden? Why do you think he didn't play the last 2 games?
I think perhaps tactically there was maybe a part of me thinking that's something to do with Haaland not playing. He sort of decided that Foden works well with Haaland, the center, but that doesn't really play out because the game before that Haaland played and Phil didn't, right? I think where Haaland got the brace, I forgot who the opponents were. So that doesn't really play out, but there is a lot of panic about Foden playing yesterday. I think that makes a sort of zero impact on me whether he's going to start on the weekend or not. In fact, he played and he played well. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear in my head. I think Foden was on the naughty step. Or he was unwell or unfit or burnt out or was carrying a niggle or something of that sort. Because I have no doubt he's first choice. And if you're watching the games, he that right side position should be him. They look a lot better with him. It's not like they coasted in the game against Leicester too, right? They won 1-0. So, and Pep doesn't want to drop points. I think he wants to rightly focus on UCL in the latter part of the season. It's not like Arsenal are going away at the moment, and doesn't have a substantial lead, and he wants to try closing that league as much as possible. So I think it's either of the 2 reasons, and I think it's fine. I think if it was a naughty step, Pep has done this previously with Foden before, where 2-3 games he's benched him previously when Foden did something, and I don't think something like this is going to come out in the open. And given that now he's played 90, I think playing 90 midweek has zero impact on his likelihood of playing this weekend. But I'd be very surprised if he's not starting.
3 games in a row would be a lot. And I think if you have Foden, you simply hold him, irrespective of the team leagues. I guess if you get the team league that he's not playing, that would probably be the only eventuality in which you do move him on. But if you're in the dark, I think you stick with Foden.
And you get the league that he's starting and Haaland isn't. I am very comfortable captaining Phil Foden this game week. Like if somebody who has a Foden is thinking of getting a De Bruyne into his team just for captaincy, I think they're fine equally as assets. I have no cons captaining of Foden over a De Bruyne.
Yeah. And let's address a league situation, right? I think we just can't help it. Leaks are going to happen, but it's very important to have an either or, a sort of a decision map in mind what you're going to do, because the servers will probably crash again. So once we get the leaks, we should have about 10 minutes. We should have a clear idea. If X happens, I want to do Y, etc. So have some sort of idea in your mind before then.
Yeah, I think 10 minutes is your sort of alarm, because you'll probably get the news 15 minutes earlier. 10 minutes is your alarm. You need to click the buttons when you see 10 minutes left to deadline. You just need to do that, whatever happens. So have sort of ideas in mind for sure, in terms of if Haaland is starting, I'm doing this. If Haaland isn't starting and Foden isn't starting, I'm doing this. Like map that out in your head. I think, and you need to think about it after Pep's presser and the images that you see. So I think Saturday morning when you wake up, think 15, 20 minutes in terms of what your potential roadmap is.
So let's discuss Haaland and possible eventualities there. If now Pep leaves things a little bit vague and we found out that Haaland is in the squad, but we don't know if he's starting or not, what are your thoughts?
And if we get no leak, I think I'll
If we
probably
get no
captain him.
leak and like we get some sort of leak that he's in the squad, because a lot of times what happens is you see him getting off the bus or some things like that, but you may not know whether he's starting or not. I'm fairly comfortable that we'll get some sort of input of whether he's in the squad or not. Starting is still a little bit optimistic.
I'm comfortable captaining him because right now there's no other standout captain. And unless, except for KDB, if you have KDB in your team, I think it's a no-brainer you captain him. But to get to KDB is a problem for a lot of us FPL managers. So that's a separate conversation to have altogether. But I mean, and I'm not sure about where I am, but I think I'm probably comfortable captaining him if he's in the squad. What do you think?
I think so, cause I think if he is in the squad, there's a good chance he starts, because I don't think fitness as such is an issue. Cohesion with the team isn't an issue. He's had a bit of rest, and it's not a sort of, it's an impact injury. It's not a hamstring
Correct.
injury, where it's not a sort of a muscle injury where let's say you rush somebody back too quickly. They play 70, 80 minutes, they can aggravate it. It's because of the impact, which once you shake it off, you're fresh as a daisy.
Exactly. You did have a little bit of a worry of the Carabao Cup, though. I just think if he's fit, he starts the league over the Carabao, right? I mean, surely it's that, right?
Right. So they played Chelsea midweek in the Carabao Cup. And what I was just thinking today morning after the Chilwell injury yesterday, I don't think any player who is in the World Cup for his country is going to want to play all the next 3 games. That is game week 15, Carabao Cup, and game week 16. Nobody's want to do that. And very few players I can see doing that now. So I guess like Foden, for example, if he plays the next game, he's probably going to be bench against Chelsea, etc., etc. So I don't think any player from any team is going to play the next 3, just because the fear of injury is so much now. Everybody's on their toes. We saw Romero today pull out. He says apparently he'll be fit in 10 days. It's very convenient. That's just in time for the World Cup. And I expect more of these, to be honest.
In fact, if I'm not wrong, there was actually a petition from Argentinian players to not be available for game week 16, which was rejected by 2 clubs already. So I think there's a lot of pressure, especially coming in from Argentina, which clubs have already rejected.
Yeah.
So this convenient injury props up. It in fact makes you think that a squad could actually be important game week 16 if you really think about it. Like a couple of bench players could just be of use, I reckon.
Absolutely. Might need to call on the likes of Andreas, Kehi, Neko on that. We really don't know. And if you remember, right, the FA had asked for the game week 16 fixtures, none of the big teams to face each other. So game week 16 has some really nice matchups, but game week 15 is a bit of a horror show. There's no standout like favorite team like fixture over here. You can look at, say, this team is a clear favorite, except the Man City game, I think.
Yeah. There's one team I really like though for this week in particular. We'll get to that when we're looking at the matchups. But you're of the same opinion, De Bruyne as a standout captaincy option?
Absolutely. If money no bar, picks no bar, De Bruyne would be the captain pick.
How do you feel about selling the guy who showed you enough leg for De Bruyne then?
It's interesting because Liverpool switched up again. They went to the same similar 4-3-3, but now Klopp was speaking about defensive solidity being the need of the hour. So he maybe switched the emphasis a little bit. Salah scored, but it was a set piece tap in. Not really that much from open play. But if they didn't play Southampton in game week 16, I would consider possibly moving him on this week. But that's game week 16 Southampton fixture screams all potential. And he's not going to be worried about going to the World Cup because he's not going. He's going to play 90 minutes that game. So that's what really has me worried. More next week than this week.
Yeah, and like, push comes to shove, I'm inclined to keep Salah. I am hoping to do Saka to Foden or Mitrovic to, because I made the switch from Foden to Saka last weekend. So did you. That's why we have a third city spot open. I don't feel like selling Salah. I think he looks sharp. I think Klopp has rightly recognized that he needs to play Salah central. Last 3-4 games, he's doing everything to make sure he's not very wide. I think he's looked a lot sharper as well in the last 2 or 3 games. I think there's a haul around the corner, and I'm like, for the first time in a long time, I'm feeling like, we're seeing the old Salah back. So I'm not sitting very comfortably with the idea of selling Salah for KDB. And, even Spurs, for example, right now they're defending with 8-9 men at the moment. But that said, even though they're defending with 8-9 men, I mean, I saw the full 90 minutes against United. They were conceding chances for fun. It was the game in which Rashford could have had a hat trick. And now they're without Romero as well. So even though if they're fully going to bus park and defend, which I don't think they will because they're playing at home, I think Liverpool will have chances. Yes, Liverpool aren't a very functional side, but they're still top 5 for XG underlying. So in terms of attack, they're still getting the chances. And if Mo Salah's playing central, he's going to get bulk of the chances. And like, look at Spurs, for example, right? It's a very good apples to apples comparison because Spurs haven't been, doing really well, haven't been scoring a ton of goals, etc. as well. But Kane, what stands out is his world-class quality, right? So whichever way he's getting the goals and points, he's getting the goals and points. And that's what we're seeing with Salah also now that he's moved centrally. He scored 3-4 goals in the last 4-5 matches. So the goals are coming, and I think he's just looked a lot more sharper. So if you can help it, where I am is I think you hold more now because Southampton also, I mean, they conceded so many chances to Palace. They were very, very open, and I think there are goals to chase in that game. So I have Darwin and Salah, and I'm inclined to hold both because I don't even think the Spurs game it's not a bad game for Liverpool. I think they'll still capable of scoring a goal or two. That's all. That's where I am.
I think no Son.
Have you noticed that?
Noticed what?
Salah just becoming a little more sharper.
Yeah, I think selling Salah does not sit well with me at all. I can feel some goals coming. But what I wanted to touch upon is the lack of Son. It means that Spurs are lacking a huge weapon on the counter, which might encourage Liverpool to be more aggressive as well. If they had Son to worry about, they would play a little bit deeper. But without that outlet, Spurs' attacking options are far more limited, which could allow Liverpool to be more aggressive.
Exactly. So I think we're on the same page. If you can help it, keep more. Because I think we're both seeing the same things with more right now.
So if I was to get in KDB, what I've been thinking of is right now I have a Tony issue also. I don't necessarily mind doing something like Zaha. I have 2 million in the bank, Zaha to KDB and Tony to a dead spot. A 4.2 Greenwood and just play Andreas the next 2 weeks. If the captaincy is a factor, I prefer doing that rather than selling Salah.
But what if Foden's fit and starting?
If Foden's fit and starting, I'd probably do Foden to Zaha because I fancy Foden to outscore Zaha for the next 2 weeks. I don't mind, probably for a hit.
What do you do in my position, Saka to Foden?
Saka is an interesting one because Arsenal attack, I fancy them to do us over at Stamford Bridge this weekend, and the game against Wolves also, there are goals there. So it's not as easy, but ultimately the priority this week is City. I think there's literally anybody in your team can be sold for City players.
Yeah. At the moment, I'm debating sort of Mitrovic to Alvarez if we know he's fit, or Saka to Foden. The thing with Saka, and I want to talk about it, is I think it depends a lot on tonight. And I think he's going to start, and I think Arteta is going to start his best 11 tonight. But there are at least 8 or 9 starting 11 people in his team today because it's very, very important. I cited this on the pod last week also. It's very, very important that Arsenal and Manchester United top their group because not only do they, what happens is there's an extra round of knockout fixtures in February, which is against the third place team in the UCL groups, which now has the likes of Barcelona and a lot of other big clubs. And you're going to avoid playing 2 fixtures and you're going to avoid playing good teams. So I think, and both Arteta and Ten Hag have been very vocal about this in the press conferences as well. What I think, what is the fact is that though, Arsenal are playing a Zurich, which is the worst team in that group. So I can easily see them finish off the game 2-0, 3-0 in the first half. And then Arteta is going to be like, you know what, you guys have done your job. 45, 60 minutes, good enough for that. Then it's fine. But if it's a game that goes a little deep, I am worried about how Arsenal fare against Chelsea. So I think, if Saka and the likes are dragging on and playing 80, 90 minutes, I think the Thursday factor is important. Then I'm much more comfortable making the Saka to Foden move later.
Nah, I think you're building a narrative there to sell Saka. I think even if they play 80, 90, the mental focus, they're going to be on Chelsea. They're thinking about Chelsea. Even the lineup against Zurich today, first of all, the Zurich game is at home. I expect them to swipe them aside comfortably, and there's no travel, etc. involved. Even if it goes like long, if it goes tiring, I don't think it has any impact on their performance against Chelsea.
That's it. I mean, 2 weeks ago, you were telling me also that little bit of fatigue is building up with
if it was
Arsenal.
away, I would count that a lot more. And it was let's say this was a PSV game rather than the Zurich game. My thinking would be different. But now they're playing a much easier team. They're playing at home, and the eyes are firmly on Chelsea.
And they need to get a result. They need to win 1-0. And this all depend on PSV's result as well. But they need to get a result. So let's see what happens there. Cool. And it's how do you feel about Haaland and selling him?
This was a team value question. In your consideration. Yeah, I don't think now. First of all, team value should not come into the picture at all. Whether you should sell Haaland or not, right? Let's just put that out the window. The only concern now is if Haaland is available for Brentford. That's pretty much the only thing that we should be thinking about, because again, that could be 17, 20 points, anything before the World Cup. Because again, not going to the World Cup, going to play 90 minutes. Regardless if he is available. So if he is given some sort of chance of being available for the Brentford game, he's going nowhere in my opinion.
I agree. And I think we have gotten Saka. So we have the third spot open. So any other midfielder or forward like Mitrovic to Alvarez is something everybody can afford because Alvarez is cheap. So I think those are the sort of moves that I'm looking at. What do you think about Grealish? Is he an FPL asset for you? Because Pep mentioned that he was subbed off 45 minutes. There's a little bit of fatigue that's accumulating and he needs to start midweek. So I think Grealish has cemented that left wing spot, which is something Baker was telling us. But I just don't see a world in which Foden is not starting in the front three for that City.
Yeah, the Grealish topic, let's tackle that. I just don't think he's very FPL good. He's a ball carrier. He draws defenders towards him, but he's not FPL good.
Agreed. I think you pick your battles from Foden, KDB, Cancelo. See what happens with Haaland, and Alvarez is a good enough punt. I'm an Alvarez believer. Like when he came on and scored a couple of goals as a sub. When Haaland was subbed off, the quality of the goals were really, really good. So I think if his role is to be in and around the box, I think he's got enough quality to put them at the back of the net if he's starting. If Haaland isn't starting and if we find out that Alvarez is starting, I'm very comfortable doing a Mitrovic to an Alvarez or a Haaland to Alvarez, depending on how bad Haaland's situation sounds tomorrow, and putting the armband on him as well.
I'm in the same boat. I'd probably do that for Tony, which sort of solves two of my issues. Getting a Tony replacement and getting a third City player. So that would be sort of ideal situation for me. The obvious drawback with that is going into next week. You probably are going to have to dead end that spot or move that guy. You can't get a third City then very easily. That's the only drawback I can see for the next week.
Yep. But I mean, one game week right now is 50% of the remainder of the season, as you know it. So it's huge.
But the thing is, next game week, they're good matchups. This week, we are all looking towards City with laser vision because they have the only good matchup on paper. Next week, you can move Alvarez on to so many other strikers who have a good matchup.
Agreed. Anything else to discuss? How comfortable are you? Let's say if we don't have any sketchy news and somebody who doesn't know De Bruyne, is Cancelo a captaincy consideration for you?
Now, Pep, what he's been doing with Cancelo, he's changing his role almost every game. Certain games, he puts him in a more attacking role. Certain games, he makes him defend more. I think he'll be a bit wary of Fulham's counter. Because I don't think Marco Silva is going to be as negative as some other managers. I think he's still going to try to go there and play. So he will be wary of that side. I'm not familiar who plays that side for Fulham. So it's a coin toss. You might get an attacking Cancelo or you might get a Cancelo sitting behind who might still concede. You could see this being a 6-1, 5-1 kind of game, couldn't you?
Yes. And I mean, City aren't the same defensive setup that they were last year or year before last, because they've pulled the handbrake down a little because they have a striker called Erling Haaland up front in their team. I think they had to shift and play the way they did last season because they didn't have a striker. So there was a lot of choking. I think they played differently this season. So I don't think they're incredible and one of the best defenses in the league, if not the best defense. But I'm not very confident of a clean sheet, which is why I'd look elsewhere. I'd captain Salah over Cancelo this week is how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. If not a City, I'd probably go Salah.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's enough City chat. Anything else to discuss? I think we've covered it all.
Let's just go fixture by fixture and we can possibly discuss any players and teams, etc. over here.
Cool. You want to go to the fixture ticker, and a lot of people are looking for short-term punts. Let's just say that if you don't have 3 City, try going towards that first. But let's talk about other short-term punts also. Let's put the fixture ticker ons off.
Yes, I'm just scrolling towards it. It's up now. Right. So
Cool.
Everton are right at the top. In midfield, I don't see any punts are like over there. And even Calvert-Lewin, I think the last 2-3 games he's had a shot each.
Yeah.
I'm off that now.
Yeah, I don't like DCL as a punt also. I think if you're in the market for a striker, there are better strikers around. And midfielder, if you're even going for a cheap midfielder, maybe Gordon is somebody you fancy. But outside of that, I don't like anybody. What do you? I want to ask you something from a selfish point of view. I own a Patterson, and Patterson versus Andreas might be a thing for me this week. Would you start Patterson or Andreas?
Patterson, home game.
Home game. Leicester have goals in them. That's my only.
They're a bit
worry.
different.
Like
He's tweaked them a little bit. Maybe the City game was obviously super defensive, but Everton at home, they'll concede a shitload of shots and then Pickford will save them up. That's how pretty much they're rolling. Because Andreas, I really don't see much this week. You're looking at 2, maybe max 5 if he gets something from a set piece, but I'm not very optimistic.
No, I'll tell you why though. Because I like Andreas a lot more in the counter games. Like his position in the Leeds game, he's faster than Mitrovic. He's better at sprinting than Mitrovic. So if there is an out ball and Mitrovic is heading, he's one of the guys who's an outlet on the counter. So that's one of the things that's playing on my mind. And the thing with Patterson also, I mean, it's important because a few people still own Patterson, is he's not guaranteed to start. Like Coleman could still start, and Patterson came on for 20 minutes at the end of last game, and Coleman's been doing well. So he's not nailed on to start. That's how I feel about the situation. So
I think he'll bring Patterson in.
You think he'll bring Patterson in? But what do you think about the whole counter thing? Because I think Andreas is the furthest forward on a counter. And let's face it, Fulham's best chance is going to be to counter.
I know, but still Patterson at home, I still probably back him. I haven't looked at how the clean sheet odds are, but I'm not very confident on Andreas this week.
Cool. Before we move on to the next team, we've got a fair few, 500 of you watching us live. Make sure you're hitting the like button and click on the subscribe button. It really, really helps us. If you guys are on Twitter, we tweet out the links to the pod. Please, spread the word. It really, really helps us get out there, and we'd appreciate your support. And if you want to support us further, we also have a Discord setup where we're hanging with a lot of people. It's increasing by 3-4 people every week. And you can get on there by supporting us and become a member on YouTube or becoming a member on Patreon as well.
Right. You can skip Man City, discuss Bournemouth. What do you think of Solanke as a Tony replacement?
It's all right. Like, I think there are better places to spend transfers. Like,
I'd agree. The problem with me is Moore, because Moore scored the last game and you saw Solanke playing behind him. I think so. Moore is going to start the remaining 2 fixtures, which makes Solanke a bit worse.
Yeah. And his underlines haven't been that good, and he's not like haul potential. Like, I think in the last 2 game weeks, you can go haul chasing. You're not looking for long-term value picks. If you own him, you definitely start him and play him, no problems. I wouldn't sell him at all. But I think you can go for more explosive picks to buy right now. Like the team we're going to be talking about next.
Brighton.
Like, I think this is a team capable of hauls, because under Potter, under De Zerbi, they're top 6 for attacking underlying numbers. And, depending on Veltman's fitness and depending on Welbeck's fitness and / illness, Trossard could be playing up front. That doesn't seem to matter so much if he's playing up front or not. But one of the most explosive punts in midfield for the last 2 games of the season, in my opinion, hands down, is Trossard. Like, I feel very bullish about that. What do you think? You saw them play against you a lot. What do you think?
He completely wrecked us. But the thing is with Trossard, we've seen he shines in these big games. Why? Because he gets space. Now, the next 2 teams he's playing, Wolves, are a bit more conservative, and Villa under Emery in an away game, I expect them to be quite conservative as well. Now, it sounds funny to say, but the fixture list probably read something like Chelsea, Arsenal. That's probably when we should pile in on Trossard. So it's a reverse fixture ticker for him.
I just think it's happenstance, though, because he was threatening against Forest also. Like, I think it's happenstance. It's happened. I believe in the player. I think he's got enough quality. I mean, that goal where he turned around the keeper, kept his composure and put it in the net, just talks about the quality of the player. So I just think Trossard is a good pick at any point now.
And the thing to mention is now Stupinan is going to play the next 2 games. So he's not going to be at left wing back.
Yeah, you hope that Estupiñán is going to play because they had to shift to a 4 at the back because Veltman was injured. Now we don't know what Veltman's injury status is, but you'd have to think that Estupiñán showed enough in the last few games to cement that wing back spot, which means that he should at least be in the front three. So I just like Trossard as a pick.
Even defensively, I think you could play your Dunks, etc., as your third defender this week. I like that.
Yeah, if somebody's in the bracket for a cheap defender, like Wolves and Aston Villa are two of the best clean sheet fixtures out there, no matter what style of play De Zerbi likes to implement. So if you want to go Dunk, Webster, if you want to go crazy with S2, because he's got a way more. S2 is like a good fling to have right
He
now because
almost
the potential is good.
against Chelsea.
Yeah.
Thiago Silva was
Yeah.
just cleared it off the line, but so he's definitely very attacking, and he'll start the next two, I think, because there's no midweek stuff to worry about.
Exactly.
Manchester United. I think.
I mean, it's a team.
Yep. Go ahead.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I think I need to start taking Manchester United a bit more seriously now. I agree with Pep. I was really looking at Rashford this week, but the only thing that slightly put me off is Bruno Fernandes being suspended for the Villa game. How crucial is he to your team?
I think we'll do fine without him. Like Eriksen, in my opinion, is most likely to move to 10, and Fred Casemiro are going to be in midfield. Likely that's going to be the scenario. Donny van de Beek is fit now, so he could replace Bruno as a number 10. And Bruno's he's a very hard worker on the pitch, but creatively, he's inconsistent. He'll have a 5 on 10 and then he'll have a 10 on 10. Like he's capable of both. He's not a solid 8 on 10 every game in terms of creativity. Like a lot of his low percentage balls are off sometimes. So I don't think it's that crucial. I quite like Eriksen as a number 10. I mean, you saw the cross he put forward in the last game. My only issue with United is I think we're definitely starting our first 11 tonight, because we need to beat Sociedad by 2 goals to qualify. And I think it's a game that matters. Sancho is ill. Martial's just about getting fit. Anthony is not traveling to Sociedad because he's on an individual program. So those guys are probably might or might not be fit for the weekend. But the guys who've been playing have been playing a lot. So the fatigue is going to accumulate. And Emery's first home game at Villa, he's going to bust park. So if you're buying a midfielder this week, I think you go other places. Like Rashford will do fine. I don't think he'll explode. That's where I am with United.
But the draw is a Fulham fixture in 16. That I think is tailor-made for Rashford.
It's tailor-made. Agreed. That is tailor-made. So yeah, over 2 games, yes, Rashford's a good pick. I just think that I'm a little bit wary, and I'm very comfortable holding and playing Rashford. I own him since a while. So yeah. I think a lot of us are going to be starting to talk about also the Fulham game. He could probably be playing with Martial, and Rashford as an FPL asset is a lot better with Martial in the team. They really have a good understanding, especially Bruno, Martial, and Rashford. Them 3 together have a really good understanding. So I love the Fulham fixture. Just not very confident. Like you take a goal and run if you get it against Villa.
Do you like these two for clean sheets necessarily?
United are good for clean sheets no matter the opposition.
Even without Varane.
Even without Varane. I think Varane is great, and it's 2 games now. It doesn't really matter too much. But Casemiro is one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. And it's just not that. Everybody in the team is working hard. Lisandro Martinez, oh my God. I think he's top 3 CBs in the league right now. I think it's that good. And I think everybody in the team is working hard. I mean, look at Dalot. When did he start defending so well at the back post defensive positionings? All of our players have improved a lot in attack, and I think we're a good setup and we offer a lot of value. I mean, it's under 5 million. Both Shaw and Dalot offer a lot in attack as threats as well. I mean, it's under 5 million. You can't go wrong with these picks, and I think most of us will own 1, if not 2, United defenders come game week 17.
I'm really hoping Dalot gets his yellow card, the 5th one, in one of these next 2, so we can pick him post unlimited transfers.
Yeah, but just I think at this point I want to pause and say that the yellow card syndrome, I think it's something we need to forget. Like if it happens, it happens. I don't think we need to let it influence us, because 3 weeks ago I was thinking about going for a defender and I didn't go Dalot. One of the reasons I didn't go Dalot was like, okay, he's on 4 yellows and he's susceptible to yellow card. I'm watching United play 90 week in, week out. I think you just go for the player that's good. Don't worry about the yellow. If it happens, you take it on the chin. But I don't think in the future we should let this affect our decision making, because it clouds our judgment and not in a right way, in my opinion.
I worry about it more naturally for defenders than for attackers, because obviously attackers have it more within their control. Usually it's for something stupid they do. So
Yeah.
it worries me definitely more for assets at the back than in attack.
Correct.
Moving on to the next
So
fix. Do you want to discuss
also
something?
Rashford's downloaded heading.exe. Like I think he just did it last week. He didn't have that in his repertoire before. I mean, so many times he was really poor at heading, and that header was incredible. And so I listened to a lot of United podcasts as well, and they were talking about how they've spoken to Rashford, and it's one of the things that Ten Hag specifically spoke to Rashford about, given his stature and body type and height, that he needs to get that into his system, and it adds in his repertoire as a goal scorer. So yeah, good pick. Just don't expect much against Villa.
Cool. Forest have 2 home games coming up against Brentford and Palace, and these are really must-win games for them. And I think both are opposition they can win against. Unfortunately, Neco Williams seems to have lost his place, but all of Arsenal's attack came down that side. Lodi, I thought, was pretty rubbish. Do you think Neco possibly gets back in?
Yes.
That's interesting.
If you have to start Neco, I think you start him this week. I think he's fine.
I'm leaning towards that as well. If I have to, it's all about my first sub. If I go with if I decide to keep Tony or do the dead ending stuff, then I'll be starting one of Andreas or Neco.
Who do you have to start between Neco and Patterson's off?
Patterson
still
Patterson.
Because Brentford are without Tony.
I know, but still, Everton at home. It's the last home game of the I say season but like before this pre-World Cup thing. So they want to go out on a high, and just Pickford is in unreal form.
Yeah.
And Patterson is attacking. He's not that he's not attacking. Yeah. Neco and his wings have been clipped a lot. Neco doesn't attack much at all now.
Yep.
That's what in terms of attack maybe Avoni. Do you think he's a punt?
No.
No, right?
No.
Cool.
Not for me. I wouldn't go for. There are just so many better places to spend your transfers.
Which might be one of the teams we talk about next, West Ham. There's a lot to unpack over there.
Very, very, very bullish on them. I think a lot of factors that have to be taken into consideration. I think they're done with Europe, right? So they need to worry about fielding a strong team there. You'll have a greater indication who's going to play striker. Palace are playing Millie in midfield, and Doucouré to Millie is a huge downgrade. I think we haven't spotted this or spoken about this enough, and I think it's a huge downgrade. And Paqueta has been the creative hub for West Ham, and he's back. So I think these factors lining up, if you want to punt on Bowen, if you want to punt on West Ham defense, which has been statistically one of the best defenses in the league so far, go for it. I'm very bullish. If you have 3 City, like Bowen is the punt I would go for this week.
In midfield, right? I think it'd be the top midfield punt. But most of the interest seems to be towards Kamaka. A lot of people are looking at him as a Mitrovic replacement. I've gone a bit cold on him.
Same, so have I. Why? He's a 60, 70 minute play. He's not going to get you 90 minutes because Antonio in the last 20, 25 minutes is a sort of a cheat code, right? And it looks likely that Kamaka is going to come off for Antonio. Likely every game is what's been happening. So Bowen is the one I go for. And I'm very bullish on Bowen. I think if you can go there, it's a good punt. I think Palace are there for the ticking without Millie.
Completely agree. And in defense, I still like Cresswell.
Yeah, Cresswell, Zuma, good picks. I mean, hats off to you. You went there early because their underlying numbers are really, really strong. They're just a good defensive setup under Moyes and have been for a while.
Yep. That was a tough decision because his game week 12 fixture was rubbish, right? But ultimately, we talk about this again and again. In defense, it's not as much fixture as it is the team.
Correct.
That was the thing there.
Again, because double game weeks and blanks are going to crop up in the future, we need to be careful about how much tunnel vision, clouded thoughts happen here, because I think we get sucked into that a lot and look at one game week and, playing the things like every single time looking at the bigger picture and sticking to the good teams and good players sort of wins over planning for one blank game week or something of that sort. What do you think about that? Because you have a tendency to do that, but again, the good team won in that sense. So especially because I think West Ham had a tough fixture in 12 when you went there.
But it's a bit different with double game weeks. So they always pull you in. But what's going to happen, I think we're going to have a lot of double game weeks within the same. So we're going to have to pick and choose our targets. Like the entire
Yeah.
game week we had off, it might all just be smashed in. So the double game weeks won't necessarily be equal for all teams. Certain teams will have better fixtures.
Yeah.
So things will get
Good.
interesting then. I'm not even wanting to think about it right now. Pretty jaded as it is. So we'll see double game week
Yeah.
season when it does come up.
Yeah. Cool. I think we can skip Leicester. We can skip
Palace,
Villa.
let's talk about Palace a little bit in terms of the attack. A lot of us own Zaha. I think you moved on. I just want to discuss these matchups that we've been sent over here by friends at Fantasypedia. They do this stuff with the most chances conceded. So let's have a look at the matchup now for West Ham United versus Crystal Palace. West Ham actually conceded the most chances down the right side. So that is where Zaha plays on the left. So in terms of getting opportunities, he might benefit there, but I don't know. They're going to be playing Kehrer that side. I think, and Moyes, from what I see, he's very good at shutting down the opposition player. He did this something similar with Grealish last year. He played almost, I think, double right backs on that side. Shut that. He's going to be very wary of that. So I think I'd be comfortable moving Zaha on.
So would I. Just comfortable. I think there are more explosive ones to go for. So, like Trossard or City player is where I would go.
Just a second.
Or
I
Bowen.
need to let Frankie.
Hi, Frankie. What's up? How's it going? Right. Keep talking while Zoff is.
Yes, I'm here.
Not. You're all here. You're here already. Cool. Yeah, I'm comfortable moving Zaha. Like, if you can sell. I'm happy to not sit on the fence with that opinion.
Right. Yeah, let's skip Leicester, Villa, Leeds. Not much to unpack there.
No, Newcastle is who we talk about.
Yeah, Newcastle. Incredible. They are pretty much, I think we had to look at those rolling XG numbers. They are right in the top 3 for attack and defense. But I want to talk about Southampton a little bit. Are they really a good fixture? Because they're having a look at their home form. They haven't conceded more than 2 goals at home. They've only conceded 2 goals twice. The numbers are a bit strange though. Over the last 6, only Everton have conceded more shots. They're like 16th or 17th for big chances, but they haven't really been shipping a lot of goals. How good is this fixture for somebody like a Wilson or an Almiron?
Irrespective of what Southampton are, Almiron and Wilson are good picks. Fixtures aside, because of Newcastle United, because they're a good team. Because no matter what the opposition is, they'll create enough, is how I feel about Newcastle. And they're ridiculously priced. I mean, confession time. We've been late to. Both of us have double Newcastle defense, so it's not like we've been late, but we've been late to the Newcastle party in terms of identifying that we're seeing the Leicester of previous seasons, the Arsenal of last season, where there's a team that has no European commitment, that's a lot fresher compared to the other teams and is punching its above its weight and is matching the other teams and are ridiculously priced. Wilson is cheap, Almiron is cheap. When we're building our Gameweek 17 wildcard, we need to have one of them, or if not both, in our teams, just because of the sheer value that they offer and because they don't have Europe.
I do understand the point you're making, and a lot of us did have Isaac on the Gameweek 8 wildcard, but allow me a minute on Wilson. He's the flavor of the week, but we've seen the scores the last 5-6 game weeks. It's always 6-2-2. Even when he scored, he's not picked up bonus, and his numbers were not great before the Villa games. In 5 games, he had been afforded 3 big chances. He had 4 shots on target. His team was scoring 4 goals, 5 goals. He was getting 1 goal, not even an assist. So a lot of people got rid of Wilson, and I think that was a fair call at the time. He just wasn't posting the underlying numbers. Him getting this massive haul last game week, I think, is a combination of 2 things. Number one, Southgate being in the crowd and Wilson wanting to play for the England spot, and Villa being so poor.
Yeah, Villa played 1 game in terms of attacking football, and they're like, you know what, without a manager, we can do this every single time. So they said, screw it. They were so open. Their defending was also very, very terrible, very poor in that game. So that's also sort of added up. But Wilson's good for a goal anytime he's fit. I just feel that about him, and I've felt that about him for a while, even under Allardyce. So now he's under Eddie Howe. He's just a much better asset. That's all. Even Miguel Almiron, I'm actually starting to wonder how good Almiron might actually be. Like, his goals are worldies. Every week you think it's a fluke, but how many times is he going to do that again and again and again? And it's just not that he's getting the worldies. It's also he's getting a lot of chances inside the box as well. So, but he's managing to score the worldies. So you're seeing the worldies, but he's also getting good XG numbers. He's putting them up week on week. So we need to have him in our team later, if
Yeah,
not now.
he's benefited a lot from the absences of Isaac, of
Yeah.
ASM and all that. So I think that's why sort of we've been late on him, because Isaac got ruled out, I think, just a couple of weeks ago. In ASM was somewhere in the picture.
Yeah.
Always there,
I mean,
thereabouts.
4 weeks ago, I mentioned on the pod, and I said, you know what, Baker and Danny Almiron isn't an FPL pick, but that's because we didn't know that ASM was injured, Isaac was injured. Because if that's the thing, I don't even know if he's nailed, but I think now he's played himself into starting 11 for Newcastle no matter what. And I think that changes things. And I just don't know how good he is. I don't know enough about Almiron, but he looks like if he's going to do this every week, he just might be a really, really good player.
Let's talk replacements for Tony. Would Wilson be your top pick?
If you don't have 3 City, and if you know that Haaland's injured and Alvarez is starting, I'd go Alvarez over Wilson.
Fair enough. Otherwise?
Wilson.
Because a lot of people are looking for Mitrovic out as well. And it's an interesting point that Sam on our Discord raised. He thinks there's a small possibility that Mitrovic could be benched for this game because he's on 4 yellow cards. He's not very mobile anyway. This is a counter-attack game, so Silva might elect to drop him. But it's a very small chance, something we need to keep out for, because he might target the United game in 16.
Yeah. I mean, the only picks I would maybe debate going over Wilson and would highly consider also would be Gabby J and David Nunes. I think those 2 picks are the ones who are competing with Wilson. I think that's the bracket that you're looking at when you're comparing Callum Wilson as a pick. Those are the picks who would probably be in the debate. I mean, the likes of DCL, Solanke, other random guys, no.
I think pretty much Jesus and Darwin. He's in that category now, and the Chelsea fixture really shouldn't put you off. We are conceding 1.5 XGC on average under Potter, so it's a good fixture for Newcastle.
But I think Potter as a manager realizes that. Like I think the Arsenal-Chelsea game is going to be a lot closer than you realize. I think Chelsea are going to be up for it. I think Potter's realized that he got done over by Brighton, and I don't think he was expecting that too much. And I think Chelsea are going to be up for it. Is Kovacic fit? Because I think
he's doubtful, but I think they might risk him, and they'll probably play a back 4. I think with Cucurella now on the left. I think he's going to stop this whole Pulisic, Sterling wing back sort of thing.
Yeah. I think Chelsea are going to surprise a few against Arsenal. I'm feeling something there. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for Arsenal.
Do managers really need to shift on Mitrovic, you think, or do you think he's an okay hold for the next 2?
He's an okay hold.
Is what we don't. He's not a hard sell per se, but if you have like 2 free transfers, if you have a transfer to spare, then probably
sell. Yeah.
Anything else on Newcastle?
The thing that attracts me most towards Mitrovic is that Alvarez is cheaper than Mitrovic, so it's very easy to go to Alvarez.
Correct, but that's contingent on a lot of things which we discussed earlier.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Arsenal. Anything much to talk here?
No, I mean, you hold on to your picks. I mean, Chelsea are bottom 10 for XGC. So it's not like Arsenal aren't going to do much. But what do you think if somebody like how you are in your position for Zaha, would you sell Martinelli, Saka for a City midfielder?
For a City midfielder, yes.
For nobody else, right?
For nobody else.
Like Trossard, no.
No.
Cool.
Backing the team over here.
Don't disagree.
We've already discussed Liverpool in terms of their assets, Salah, Nunes. Anything to add there?
No, I want to talk about Spurs though.
Let's talk Spurs. Go ahead.
Yeah, because Perisic might play front 3 now. Like that's a genuine, real consideration now that Son is out, and I don't think he's going to be back. See what Conte might say, because he's hinted towards this in the previous press conferences as well. And Oki sort of hinted about that on his Twitter as well. So, the explosive pun that we're sort of looking for might not be in midfield or attack. It could just be in defense. Perisic is a front 3 player. Liverpool and Leeds at home, 2 of the best teams you want your attackers to play against. I quite fancy that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Perisic, Kane, Lucas is probably what we're going to see unless we see Brian Hill thrown in. I think they're short of options.
Yeah. Yep. And the 3 midfielder thing hasn't really worked too much, right? So I think we could see something like that, because Perisic could just be defensively inclined as well if he's looking for balance in his team. So yeah.
I think at least 30 minutes, if not necessary to start with. I think at certain point he's going to chuck him in up top.
Yeah. Are you going to spunk some money on Oba scoring versus Arteta?
I don't even know if he'll start, but I hope he does. I think he will probably
Of course
see.
he will. I think he must have told Potter like weeks ago that game, you start me. I want to play against Arteta. I think he'll be up for it. I think he'll be fired up.
That's a fair point, but his Potter is very unpredictable. In terms of Chelsea assets, we are complete no-go, front to back.
Yeah. Yeah. Still start White, right? Because you haven't been potent up front, right? Comfortable.
A nil-nil is a very distinct possibility.
Cool. What do you do with Harry Kane if you own you?
Stick.
Hold. What do you think? What do you think about moving to Kane from Haaland last 2 weeks?
I don't necessarily like it because again, without Son, that's Kane's buddy gone.
I just, it's so odd this Liverpool versus Spurs fixture because both teams are not functioning really well, and both teams are good options this week in my opinion because both teams are conceding a lot of chances. Like even Spurs, they're conceding chances even though they're defending with 7-8 men. So I quite like their attackers against each other as a matchup. That's all. Like
so go ahead.
I won't be surprised if it's a slightly high scoring game.
Yeah. The point I want to make is the Leeds fixture also isn't a great one. Leeds, they've actually been doing better against the top sides. The approach they're playing with the midfield chaos theory thing, it works a lot better against the bigger teams than the weaker teams. So I don't think the fixtures are too great.
Agreed.
Brentford, Southampton, Fulham, I think we pretty much discussed today. Let's just go back to some of the matchups and review some of these. Last time we've already done.
Just by the way, Fantasypedia does a lot of this content and some very interesting content on Twitter. If you want to follow them, you can follow them at Fantasypedia, FANTASYPAEDIA. That's Fantasypedia.
Right. Let's look first up for the most chances conceded. Spurs against Liverpool. As per this matchup, we expect like the way this works is what you're seeing on the left is pretty much if Liverpool were attacking Spurs' goal. So they concede a lot of chance towards the center to Spurs. So we're expecting again Nunes and Salah to do well. Liverpool, no shock that they concede most chances from the right-hand side, which is they're obviously going to target Trent, but also a lot of chances towards the central areas. So again, Kane could get something. Perisic, Kane.
Yeah.
They could all work over there. West Ham we've already looked at. Let's look at Southampton against Newcastle United, and Southampton also they are without a right back. So that side, I think that's Murphy's side. Murphy plays there for Newcastle. I'm not exactly
because Joelinton is not fit for this game or suspended for this game.
That's a good point we should discuss. Joelinton has been a big part of the midfield engine. So I read something also we should mention on the Discord. Somebody was saying that Wilson mentioned on his own podcast that he's feeling a bit under the weather.
Oh, I didn't know that. So watch out for news, I guess, and look at Wilson's podcast.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine though. He can do everything he can to get on the plane. It's probably just a passing comment, but we wanted everyone to be aware of it. In terms of Newcastle conceding chances, this also again down Trippier's side, I'm guessing, because he's bombing up the pitch, but not really of interest because nobody has any Southampton players.
Yeah, go to the main one.
Manchester City.
Yes.
Look at Fulham's 55 chances created down the center. Just to put the perspective, the previous numbers you see were 40s and all that stuff. Here you see 55.
Yeah. If Haaland is in the squad, I think you captain him. Like 30 might be enough.
30 might be enough, precisely.
Yeah.
Finally, now Chelsea, Arsenal. Chelsea is pretty even. We concede chances from the flanks, but not a lot of chances. The numbers are still good. Arsenal concede a lot of chances from their left, which is what we expect. But they have Zinchenko back. He was back in training, so that might change a little bit.
Yes. Cool. I think that's it. Let's move on to... Yes, let's do our teams. Guys, if you have any questions, start typing them up so that we'll do a short 5-minute Q&A. Who do we have up first off?
Right.
And also just hit the like and subscribe button. We only have 160 people liking this stream. Get us to 200 at least. Thank you, guys.
Smash that like. My team up first. Pope in goal. Trippier, Zuma, Cancelo in defense. Saka, Martinelli, Zaha, Salah. Currently Salah captain. Tony, Haaland and Mitrovic. My bench order is currently Neko, Gehi, and Andreas. I haven't really messed with that yet. So, bit of a crisis in terms of what I want to do, but I think the Saka being fit has sort of made things a bit easier. 2 million in the bank. I could probably go Tony to Wilson, but then I won't have my third City player.
Tony to Alvarez.
That's what I'm saying. If
That's
the
the-
Haaland thing open, then it solves two issues in one blow. So that
Yeah.
would really work out. If not, I'll probably do something like Tony to Wilson and Zaha to Foden if he gets some sort
Yeah,
of
I
inkling
think-
that Foden is starting.
Yeah, I think those are your moves. And I'd be okay getting in a Man City player for a hit. I think it's worth citing that because I think the next two fixtures are worth it.
Precisely.
So, people say that you don't take hits. I think City players hits this week, good.
But what do you think about the whole De Bruyne thing? Tony to a dead end spot, Zaha to De Bruyne, and playing Andreas the next 2 weeks.
I like it. Captaincy, and you love De Bruyne. And we've been talking De Bruyne up on this podcast for the past year, if I'm not wrong. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Foden, you feel he start this week, but again, next week is going to be a bit of a, will he, won't he, and all that stuff. KDB is just a sort of set and forget. And I don't mind Andreas next week also, right? Against Manchester United.
yeah. And Andreas is decent this week also. I don't think it's a bad pick.
Right. Your team
Yeah.
up next.
I'll read it out very quickly. Can you? I'm waiting for you to shift. Read out my team.
I'll do it. Pope in goal, Cancelo, Trippier, White, Salah captain currently, Saka, Martinelli, Rashford, Haaland, Nunes, Mitrovic. On the bench, Andreas, Patterson, and Neko.
So I'm also looking at Mitrovic to Alvarez or Haaland to Alvarez based on what happens. If not, I might just bite the bullet and do Saka to Foden. That's where I am. I'm not inclined towards selling Salah at the moment. I'm feeling like Salah's going to be doing good things the next 2 weeks.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's just do a quick Q&A.
Somebody's already asked the question, super chat from Ritvik. If Haaland doesn't play, Almiron or Kane captain?
Almiron. I still can't trust Almiron with the captaincy. Probably Kane. Liverpool have conceded 22 big chances the last 6 games. That's as much as Fulham.
Yeah. It's weird. Liverpool in the last 6 matches are top of the league for chances as well as big chances created as well as big chances conceded. So they're creating big chances also. It's basically Bielsa's leads. Essentially, they've turned into that at the moment.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Krish has asked us top 3 mid-price forwards.
Wilson, obviously we discussed right at the top. Skamaka.
Not Skamaka.
Who else? Calvert-Lewin?
I think we see who is starting in Europe for West Ham today. If Antonio plays, then goes Skamaka.
Yeah, probably him and Calvert-Lewin. Solanke would be the third pick. But Solanke needs to be an enabler, right? He needs to enable something else.
Yeah. Alvarez and Wilson are the only 2 I can think of.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't really I think then you just go up to Gabriel Jesus if you can. Find the money to do that because nobody else is really a good pick.
Thinking maybe Edward. Edward's
a punt.
We don't really talk about Edward much because he keeps getting in and out of the team, but he started consistently. I think he does play the next 2.
Nah, I don't feel good about it.
And
see, Webbs is fit and go Webbs, probably.
I don't mind the Taiwo pick so much. If you really want to punt at the next 2 games are at home, I don't mind the Taiwo pick.
I'd go DCL over that.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Just because Talisman, England jersey to fight for, etc. as well. So, okay. Nehal's asked a question. Thoughts on these moves? Bobby, Saka, Tony, out to Darwin, Almiron, and Wilson for -4.
I'm just seeing that.
If you have 3 City in place, I don't mind it.
Yep. I like all the 3 players he's bringing in because we discussed Bobby. We are not very keen on. Bobby is now playing quite withdrawn. Tony is out.
He's upgrading 2 positions at the compromise of Saka to Almiron. I like that.
Much. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Cool. But make sure you have 3 City in place, huh? That's all. Edward has a knock worth mentioning. ASM as a punt? No. He could start actually. He could start. ASM could start this week. Yes.
I don't think
because
so.
Joelinton is.
He might
Joelinton's been.
No, but Joelinton plays in midfield.
No, he's been playing in the front three of late.
Has he?
The midfield has been, the midfield has been Gimaresh, Willock, and Longstaff.
Okay.
That's what they've been playing.
Okay.
And Murphy and Joe Litton have been playing on the wings generally. So, yeah.
I think he'll play Murphy.
Yeah. Murphy, ASM's a intriguing punt. I mean, if you don't have Almiron, get Almiron if you want to go Newcastle. That's all.
the thing, right? With price, you don't need to worry with, I think Almiron is cheaper than ASM.
Yeah, Zoff, remind me and let me remind you about Almiron on the Gameweek 17 wildcard because he's just insane value. He's Mahrez of Leicester season, basically. And it goes on till he goes on. Couple of blanks, then you sell, but until then you keep.
It's cheap.
Karan's asked a question. Yeah, we got a ton of super chats to go through, so I'll just move on.
Yeah.
Karan's asked, lads have Tony, Saka, Triple City as well with Foden. With two fronters thinking Tony and Saka to Miggy and Wilson. Would you go anywhere else? I wouldn't necessarily do Saka to Miggy. If you can afford Tony to Wilson just like that, do it.
Probably. I would agree with that. But I think he probably does. Maybe a money move.
If you need the cash, do it. Because Tony's not playing, so it's fine. If you don't have a third city, go Alvarez. I like Alvarez as a punt this week. I'm a believer in the player. Would you suggest to move on Firmino to Darwin or Alvarez if you get any news on Alvarez starting? Yes. What do you think?
I think Alvarez, because his performance was really good. Goal and 2 assists. Yeah. Pep praised him. I think he plays if Haaland is out.
Yeah. I agree. Cool. I think that's it for us. We have one more super chat. Guys, no more super chats after that.
Yep,
okay. Cool. Okay. Neil just told us that he already has 3 City in place. That's all. Cool. Nehal's on the Discord, so we'll talk to you on the Discord maybe Saturday morning after Pep's presser, and we can take this forward. We will see you next week for one last fling before the break. As things stand, we are not going to be doing any World Cup content. We'll be taking a little bit of breather, but what we might do is a few FPL focused macro interviews / content bits during the World Cup. So yeah, watch out for that and make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button. Good luck for this week. And do we want to tell our listeners who is the right ITK to follow?
This is what, leaked lineups? Team News and Ticks? Is that what it is?
Team News and Ticks. Yeah, that's the guy you should follow. Nobody else really has very legit Team News. So just be wary of that.
Yeah, be careful of the wrong Team News. Right.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, guys. See you next week.
Take care.